And speaking of expertise, we move to our next presenter, Mika Nishimura, who is uniquely qualified to present what she is going to present tonight, an objective research on the history, context, and health benefits of Bikram yoga. Now, Mika has traveled the world teaching Bikram yoga. She has vast experience in the classroom in different cultural contexts. And she aims tonight to bring us, as she says herself, beyond the controversy. Bikram is a controversial figure for many different reasons. But what Mika is going to focus on is really how, now that the idea of Bikram yoga is beginning to fade into yoga's collective past, new images emerge, new ideas of how to use this yoga, new branding. Maybe we won't hear so much about Bikram yoga in the future. So this document that Mika has put together really can now stand as a kind of historical testament to what Bikram yoga is seen as now in 2020. So without any more extending the introduction, I will hand it over to Mika and let her explain exactly how Bikram yoga works and how we can, in fact, and must, in fact, go beyond the controversy to make sure that we can access this important material. So Mika, you can take it away.
Thank you, Dermot, and thank you for a great explanation. I think you explained it better than me. So hi, everyone. My name is Mika Nishimura. Today, I'll be presenting my thesis titled Beyond the Controversy, an analysis of the structure and content of Bikram yoga. Oh, I forgot to share my screen. One second. Thank you, please. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, we can see you. You were cutting in and out a little bit for some people, so hopefully that will.
So I'll talk about the overview. This is a brief. This is my overview. Introduction, methodology, evolution of the postures, Bikram yoga studies, philosophy behind, and Bikram yoga as therapy. Then I'll conclude. So my first Bikram yoga class was in 2006. I fell in love with it right away and decided to become a yoga teacher during my first class. 4 months later, I was in Los Angeles attending Bikram's teacher training. After completing the training, I taught in different places all over the world and have dedicated myself teaching this yoga for the last 14 years. I came into LMU to After 2 years, to my greatest surprise, I decided to write my thesis about Bikram yoga. My friend jokingly said to me, "People will think you are so into Bikram yoga. You came all the way to LA from Japan to attend the master's program and research Bikram yoga." We laughed because that was not my original intention at all. However, she might be right. I'm really interested in this content and excited to share about it with everyone tonight. I chose to write on this topic last semester when I did an ethnographic study at a local Bikram yoga studio and interviewed students and heard their testimonials. When I asked what were some of the benefits they received, one student answered, "This is the only method that really helped my depression." Another said, "My arthritis in my shoulder has healed." It worked differently for different people. Some people reaped more of the mental benefits, whereas some were more of physical benefit. Every one of them that I interviewed were getting some. This made me want to look deeper into the practice. Bikram yoga is a style of hatha yoga founded by Bikram Chowdhury around 1971. This yoga is characterized by a set sequence of 26 postures and 2 breathing exercises performed exactly the same order in a heated environment, 105 degrees and 40% humidity. Under his guru Vishnu Ghosh's guidance and using modern medical measurement techniques and research, Bikram came up with a specific sequence of postures. The individual postures are classical Hatha yoga, and every posture has a very specific anatomical, neurological, physiological, and psychological effect on the human body. The class begins with a breathing exercise, followed by 12 standing postures, 14 floor postures, a breathing exercise at the end. When asked what is Bikram yoga, most common answers are hot yoga, 26 and 2, or yoga with a crazy guru. Yes, Bikram Chowdhury, founder of Bikram Yoga, had been involved with many lawsuits, including 6 cases of sexual assault allegations, and there's a lot of controversies. When I Googled controversial yoga, the first page was filled with Bikram Yoga related issues. The second thing that showed up was Bikram Chowdhury's Wikipedia. Because of the controversies in Bikram and how it is portrayed in the media, has overshadowed other aspects of Bikram yoga, such as the healing aspects of this yoga or other leaders in this community. After the sexual assault allegation in 2013, the Bikram yoga community had named Bikram and modified the practice, and it has affected the community a lot. The hard part for most of the people in the community where Bikram might have done something horrible, but how about the yoga? A yoga that helped people in many ways. I think it has affected a lot of people, including myself. If he did something unacceptable, does that mean we should refrain from the practice? It is a very fine line to figure that out. And the biggest question is, can we separate the man from the yoga? In my opinion, you can. Although putting a posture into a sequence and branding Bikram yoga might be his idea, the yoga postures have a history of 26 and 2 sequence input was from Vishnu Ghosh and his brother Paramahansa Yogananda. One is the greatest physical culturist in India, and other one was an expert in Raja Yoga who was more into the mind and the energy. Certain combination of their wisdoms are in the 26 and 2 sequence. For my research, I looked into the scientific studies that have been done. I interviewed co-founder of Bikram Yoga, Bikram, and Rajeshri Chowdhury, and one of the most senior teachers of Bikram Yoga, Emmy Cleaves. I also interviewed 16 active Bikram Yoga teachers. In addition to that, I interviewed people such as author of Calcutta Yoga, Jerome Armstrong, PhD, Dr. Tomohisa Kuboki at Tokyo University. These people have helped me provide information for me to better understand this topic. Here, I will trace the history of the postures. Most of the standing postures largely consist of Bayam exercises. Bayam are exercises that are mostly free and dynamic. Although standing posture in the Bikram yoga are mostly less than 100 years old, I was able to identify many of the floor postures in the 3 classical Hatha yoga texts, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the Shiva Samhita, and the Giranda Samhita. Only 2 of the standing postures came from the text of Hatha Yoga. Many of the postures were found in the Giranda Samhita, which was written in Bengal, where Ghosh's college is located. These texts seem to have had a tremendous influence on the yogic culture in Bengal region. Most of the floor postures are drawn from Vishnu Ghosh's book, Yoga Cure. However, only 2 of the standing postures were included in this book. Seeing one student at a time and postures according to the student's condition, and wanted to reach more people in a shorter period of time. His theory was if penicillin worked on so many kinds of infections, couldn't one yoga prescription, even though the posture sequence are identical to Ghosh's yoga, sequencing the posture for the mass seemed to be innovative and unique to Bikram's yoga. Originalities. There are quite few research done with Bikram yoga. Researchers looked into the following categories: fitness, flexibility, and strength, depression, stress, anxiety, osteoporosis, diabetes, and insomnia. According to these studies, Bikram yoga has shown to improve lower body strength, lower and upper body range of motion, and balance in healthy adults. Non-randomized control trial report that Bikram yoga may in some populations improve glucose tolerance, bone mineral density, blood lipid profile, arterial stiffness, depression, mindfulness, and perceived stress. Most of the studies concluded further research and more numbers of subjects are needed to better understand the study. I was able to identify one of the ongoing study with Maren Nair at Harvard Medical School. The study was a randomized controlled trial of 80 individuals with depression. The participants were randomized to either 8 weeks of immediate Bikram yoga or a waitlist control condition. Maren told me that she should get her results shortly. Bikram worked with a psychiatrist, Dr. Ishikawa, in Tokyo University around 1971. Dr. Ishikawa saw a lot of change in himself practicing yoga. He decided to do some studies with yoga. He compared advanced yoga practitioner and beginners and checked their vital signs. He found that advanced practitioner had consistent vital signs during every posture, and depending on the posture, the rhythm changes. Whereas beginning practitioners had no consistency in the vital signs. He concluded regulating the breath leads to regulating the body, and regulating the mind occurs through the practice of yoga. Although Dr. Ishikawa has already passed away, I was able to connect to his colleague, Dr. Kuboki, who had most of his published materials. Unfortunately, we couldn't locate the studies that he did with Bikram. However, we found a few with yoga therapy. Dr. Ishikawa was one of the pioneers in psychiatry in Japan, and he continued to incorporate yoga into his practice. It was fascinating for me to find out they have done Bikram yoga studies 50 years ago in Japan. Compared to the long history of yoga, Bikram yoga had existed for less than 50 years. When asked Rajashree Chowdhury about the correlation of Bikram yoga and yogic philosophy, she mentioned, it is easier to explain Bikram yoga scientifically than philosophically. Though, learning all aspects of yoga in LMU studies program helped me tie Bikram yoga to Eastern yogic perspective. And one that I correlated is Samkhya philosophy. And it's interesting because over a year ago, I had no idea what Samkhya philosophy meant. Apple's office, and I don't understand anything. So I think I have a better understanding, Dr. Chappell. Thank you for that. Samkhya is considered one of 6 orthodox philosophies that subscribe to Vedic and provides the metaphysical underpinnings of Patanjali's yoga dharma in the Yoga Sutra. The Samkhya Karika begins with the assertion that to be alive is to suffer. This could relate to the teaching of Bikram yoga. Bikram usually starts his class by saying, "Welcome to Bikram's torture chamber, to kill yourself for the next 90 minutes. Few teachers in an interview even mentioned that the benefits come from struggling in class. The text explains that Samkhya has been handed down to assist people who desire in their quest to counteract this suffering through gaining spiritual knowledge that eliminates ignorance and in the future leads to realizing the inherent freedom of one's consciousness, Prusha. Samkhya is the blueprint for gaining this knowledge through the disciplined analysis of 25 fundamental and unchangeable categories of reality known as tattvas. The 25 tattvas are the basic building blocks of all experience. It helps one understand the current indissoluble connections between the physical world, body, emotion, and mental experience. By recognizing the unfolding schema repeatedly, one gains knowledge of the physical matrix prakrti. To gain such knowledge is equivalent to the experience of liberation, kaivalya, from suffering. In a Bikram yoga, a lot of emotions come up in class. For instance, bending backwards creates fear in most people, though you find the courage and strength to do it. What you are experiencing in this process are that you become an observer, Prusha, of these deeper and sometimes buried manifestation of self. You come to understand yourself, prakrti, more clearly. Prusha's sole function is to see, and it can do nothing but watch prakrti. Furthermore, while Prusha is purely conscious, prakrti remains utterly unconscious. Due to the fundamental differences between the Prusha and prakrti, rely upon each other in the relationship of mutual reciprocity. One acts while the other merely observes. You start seeing which reactions to challenges are automatic and habitual. In a Bikram yoga class, asana is used as a medium, and it is a path of self-awareness. The physical becomes spiritual. Although the techniques are different, the ultimate goal for Bikram yoga and what is written in Samkhya are indistinguishable. Knowing yourself and liberate from suffering. Practicing the same sequence each time is a direct path to knowing yourself because there are less distractions. By practicing the same sequence, people notice subtle changes. The practice offers you a chance to explore deeper levels of self and develop awareness of emotions and thoughts that the posture evokes. The most appealing part of this yoga is the healing aspects of yoga. Yoga practice could be ineffable and mysterious. And even though it is extremely difficult to figure out how Bikram yoga works, interbeing teachers have helped me answer parts of this question. Diane Deschamps, who has been teaching for over 25 years, explains how the yoga works by saying, because of the physiological effects on the hormone, brain chemistry, and the internal organ system, it helps whole body to function properly, immune to disease, keep you vital. Another teacher I was fortunate to interview was Amy Cleaves. Amy has been practicing yoga for over 65 years and teaching Bikram yoga for 45 years. She is one of Chowdhury's most senior teachers and has been the principal of Bikram Yoga Teacher Training Program. When she first started to teach for Bikram, she was always arguing with Bikram because he was doing the postures differently from what she learned in other yoga classes. After a while, she had enough of him. She went to India with her friend who was a pioneer in the development and popularization of biofeedback. They visited different medical research centers. One was a medical clinic in Tirupati in southern India, where yoga was being used to treat diabetes and asthma. Amy describes her experience as follows. Lo and behold, they did the individual posture Bikram's way. I visited 3 or 4 other research centers that did the poses his way too, with the same energy, the same demand of precision. After that, she returned to Bikram and has been teaching and practicing since then. She is a living example of benefits of lifelong yoga. Today, Emmy is over 90 years old. Practice yoga 3 times a week, and she is healthy, have a very sharp brain, and writing book about herself and yoga. To conclude, Bikram's misconduct and how media portrayed Bikram yoga has discredited the yoga and overshadowed the essence of the practice, which is therapeutic yoga. Bikram came up with the 26 and 2 sequence with the intention to reach the mass so more people can practice yoga and benefit from the practice. After the sexual assault allegation, many studios decided to separate themselves from Bikram yoga and Bikram and go their separate ways. However, there are many who still practice the classical 26 and 2 sequence. There's a quote that Bikram used often: having doesn't mean anything if you don't know how to use it. I think this is how he articulates self-realization, which is what he ultimately wants to teach through the Bikram yoga practice. Ghosh, his guru, advised Bikram, go into the world and sow the seed of yoga into the hearts of Western people so that the seed of yoga may grow into a big tree full of beauty, blossoms, affording health, happiness, peace, and God into this troubled existence. He might not be the ideal yogi. However, the 26 and 2 creation has helped people access yoga more easily. Whether he is a fraud or not, he has brought some of the important teaching of the East to the West. It is my hope that the yoga practice gets more attention in the future and help people realize who they are, become conscious, and live a more fulfilled life. Thank you very much.
Oh, this is really a tremendous explanation of the history, the context, the practical benefits, and fascinating for me personally. And I would actually like to ask you this question. Do you think it is possible for you to revisit perhaps some of the research, or maybe even get involved with some of the research on Bikram yoga or heat yoga at Tokyo University, to kind of maybe try once again to revisit some of that research that Dr. Ishikawa couldn't finish? Maybe his successor and you could. Did you ever think maybe it's possible to do something like this, or is this on your mind for the future?
And unfortunately, he passed away pretty long time ago. He passed away in 1985. Mm-hmm. So I'm not quite sure if there's any ongoing stuff going in Tokyo University, mm-hmm. But the doctor that I interviewed, Kuboki, mm-hmm. He has a depression clinic in Saitama Prefecture.
Right.
Where he incorporates.
Yeah, I was more thinking yoga. Maybe you and him would work together.
Yeah. That would be really, really interesting.
And can you tell us more about the clinic? Sorry, I'm sorry, could you tell us more about the clinic? I interrupted you just to clarify something. So please.
Oh, the clinic is more for people who has like mild symptoms of depression, mm-hmm. and who wants to go back to work. Mm-hmm. It's specialized for them. Mm-hmm. And they have all these different therapy, and one is yoga.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It's one of the interesting things for me when I first came to Japan was to see that certain Japanese therapy for mental health issues are very different from therapies in the West. There's Morita therapy, which is based around the idea of going outside and gardening and getting involved with nature. There's forms of Zen therapy, utilizing movement and breathing. So I think Japan is a real fertile place for this kind of alternative approach, especially to mental health issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think people do not like to discuss mental health openly in Japan compared mm-hmm. to the US. Mm-hmm. So it might be a good specialty to have, like a good place to look in too.
Yeah. Let's see, everyone is excited about lots of amazing comments coming your way. Anyone want to jump in with a question?
I was told to be prepared, so I think I'm prepared.
She's prepared to field all kinds of controversial questions. No, I'm only kidding. Anybody want to ask a question?
Hi. Oh, sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Mika. I have a question.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Okay, so what do you see the future of Bikram yoga?
Future Bikram yoga.
I think maybe the Bikram yoga brand might dissolve more in the future, but I think the practice will still remain and it will help a lot of people in the future as well.
Okay.
And Lauren had a question, I think.
Yeah, my question was, I liked the connection you made with Samkhya, and I just wonder if you can continue that connection with the gunas, the 3 gunas. And
I actually did in my paper, but I didn't have enough time to explain everything. And I feel like especially the floor series does incorporate the gunas because it's kind of like an interval training. We do a posture, we take savasana, we relax, then we do another posture, then we do the savasana again. And like the rajas and the tamas, then that equals to sattva. So I think doing the high and low kind of brings you to a sattvic state. I don't know if that's answering your question, but yeah, that's how I saw it.
There's another question from Dr. Fazio would like to know, is there a simple way you could summarize the key health benefits?
Simple way to
No, actually, no, it's I know, Mika, I know that you interviewed lots of Bikram yoga teachers on what they perceived the benefits to be, and which was a little surprising because I know that you had mentioned that there's mental benefits, there's physical benefits, spiritual benefits. Is there a summary that you could share on what you found, what those findings?
On top of my mind, I remember all the teachers, all 16 teachers that I interviewed said they do get physical benefits. And I think maybe 14 of them said it's a total body workout, meaning that it includes the mental as well. So it's hard to, as I said in the beginning, it's hard to say the benefits is this because like somebody like me who started practicing in my early 20s, I was healthy, I didn't have any pains, but I still felt good and I increased my range of motion and gained more muscle mass, those kind of things. But I noticed that when I'm teaching, the people who gain more benefits are the older population who has some kind of chronic condition or pain. So it really depends on what the person is looking for. But I would really, really want to look into that in the future with the postgraduate yoga therapy course with you. So I'm looking forward to that, working with you.
And we have one final question from Dr. Muldoon Hughes, who asks if you were going to teach the connection with Samkhya, any thoughts about how you would do it? That's a very interesting question, very difficult question.
Very academic question. Hi, Karen. So nice to see you. Samkhya philosophy. I didn't really think about it. I might have to get back to you about that.
Yeah. It's certainly, it seems like the next step in some ways, involving Samkhya with some of the material and moving into a new kind of phase of what this kind of yoga, how it will evolve. Maybe the name disappears, but it certainly can still evolve as a useful form of yoga for many people. And I think your thesis really presents that extraordinarily well.
And I think we do focus too much on the physical. And I think it is important to start from the physical, but I think there should be more of like a continuing education. So if I have like a continuation education program, I think having like Samkhya philosophy and other things like Yoga Sutra into it, because Bikram does say, like, his quotes does have connotations, like relations with the yoga philosophy, but he breaks it down to Western audience, which is easier for us to understand. But
so in that case, and just to quickly to let Amy had a very interesting question, Amy Osborne, meditative benefits of Bikram yoga. Are there any studies about that?
What benefits?
Meditative, whether it helps meditation practice, whether it has an impact on that.
It really depends on what you're saying, what the meaning of meditation means. Because if we have to concentrate, if concentration equals meditation, I think we really have to concentrate in a Bikram yoga class, because it is challenging, it is hard, and you're kind of present in that moment. And so, but it really depends. And I think the intention for Bikram to make it challenging, like physically, is for Western people, because if Western people just sit down, not just Western people, but like people in general, like if they just sit down, their thoughts will go all over unless they're trained. So starting from physical was his idea, not just his idea, but one of his ideas.
Excellent. It really makes a lot of sense. And overall, Mika, outstanding presentation. Well done. And as they say in Japan, otsukare sama deshita.
So, Mika, it is so appropriate to bestow the award of Padmini, she who sits on the lotus. Now, this lotus metaphor is prevalent throughout yogic and Buddhist scriptures. And even the most revered asana of all is called Padmasana, or lotus pose. Now, the lotus as a metaphor has many, many different angles as a metaphor of life. And I'm going to start with one of them from Bhagavad Gita, verse 5.10. In English, he who performs actions, offering them to Brahman, or the divine, abandoning attachment, is not tainted by sin, just as a lotus leaf remains unaffected by the water on it. So while the lotus comes from muddy water, its leaves are waterproof. It does not allow itself to become wetted. And a karma yogi, as Mika is, fulfills their dharma untouched by sin. Now there's a contemporary monk many of you may know, Thich Nhat Hanh, who teaches us that the muddier the water, the more beautiful the flower. And that we can choose to see only the mud, or we can choose to see the beauty that arises despite the mud. And this is what Mika does. And as many of you know, there's been a lot of mud in modern yoga, misguided gurus behaving badly. And as a student from the modern lineage of Bikram yoga, Mika has already shared with us today in her presentation about some of this mud. And as one who sits on the lotus and embodies the qualities of the lotus, she delineates between the mud and the flower. Now, I remember sitting with Mika, and I will be quoting her for years to come, her wise words, which were, "It's not the person, it's the yoga." And despite some deep mud, she remains focused on the flower and the transformation that the practice of yoga has to offer. She remains unwedded by the criticism of the practice and focused on how it can support others in so many ways. Mika is the beauty of the lotus, and it's a joy to bestow upon her the superlative of Padmini.
Thank you so much, Lori. Thank you. I have to describe my experience here because I was the frog in the well. You know, there's a saying that frog in the well knows nothing of the great ocean. So I feel like I was the frog that was thrown into that great ocean and drowned many times and swallowed salt water many times. But somehow I was able to swim little by little and got here. And I'm really, really thankful to everyone, all the professors and my cohort and the family and friends that supported me. So I'm really, really thankful. And I'm looking forward to working with you in the future, learning more from you in the future. So thank you.